everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing their action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi Arkham Knight Batman. I pre-ordered this guy from AmiAmi.com. A lot cheaper than ordering it from Big Bad Toy Store, one of the American websites. He arrived today, so let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see, Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi Batman Arkham Knight version. You can see an example of the figure right here. One side of the package, Revoltech Batman Arkham Knight. Other side, a couple different images of the figure. At the back, you can see the figure, a ton of different display options and interchangeable parts. Here is the barcode, in case that helps anybody. So with no further ado, let's open him up. And of course, I did get two of these figures, one of which to open and enjoy, the other one to keep unopened in my complete Batman-related unopened action figure collection. So before we dig into this figure, I'm going to share my experience with you. As you saw just a minute ago, I got two of these from AmiAmi.com. AmiAmi did nothing wrong. They delivered the packages exactly like they're supposed to. Open up Batman, very securely packed in, tons of layers. Open it up, and bam, he's broken. This is a pretty expensive figure, so it's pretty damn annoying when this happens. Shoulder pad completely snapped off. Yeah, I could glue it, but that's going to be on top of the cape. What a horrible thing to happen. What a horrible design. So, reach out to AmiAmi, let them know what's up. They said they would reach out to the manufacturer, see if they could find a replacement, and they said, the manufacturer said this is a common problem. They have replacement secured. I have to pay to ship the guy back. They'll reimburse me for the shipping. Still, really, really annoying. So, I went ahead and opened the other version, and I'll get AmiAmi to replace my broken one, so I'll have one unopened, but for now, I've got one open, and this one seems just fine. So here's his figure out of the package. He has 5 hands, 2 different attachments for his grapnel launcher, display stand, a little tool to articulate his eyes, 2 cryographic sequencers, one open, one shut, 2 batarangs, and then a bunch of different sort of holographic things for his forearm. Very cool accessories. Before we take a look at all that, let's talk about and check out the figure. So this is Batman from the video game Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight's a pretty fun game, not without its flaws. Now this is sort of a very stylized Japanese anime type version of the Arkham Knight. And I'll tell you up front, I'm an Amazing Yamaguchi hater. I don't like these figures very much. I don't think they look very good. The crotch area is horrible. The shoulders, they're super articulated, but they look hideous in a lot of the poses. Personally, I don't really understand why they're so popular. I don't think they look good. That Joker is just hideous. Deathstroke is horrible, the first Batman. But some of the more recent releases have been quite a bit better. Arkham Knight, Catwoman, and now this Batman. He definitely looks to be in the better offerings for Amazing Yamaguchi. The main reason I'm bringing that up is I'm kind of going into this review with a negative attitude. The figure breaking didn't help either, but I'm not going to let that affect my opinion of this guy. So let's take a look. So, his stance here is a little awkward, big, bulky, his arms are a little bit too far to the side. I wish I could push him in more, but I can't. So, head looks good. It's really not very anime stylized. It looks pretty much like Arkham Knight. Ears are sort of pointing inward, and they're very long. Good sculpt on the cowl, just like the game. It's a bunch of different pieces, almost like Iron Man, and it fits together on top of him. The neck, a little bit fat, looks pretty good. Now the arms, I just wish they could go down a little bit. I can see the armor here is in like separate pieces. I remember being like that in the game. Never been a big fan of these ball joints in the elbows. It's just like a straight circle. I think they could have done better. It's very noticeable. Arms go in very nicely. You can see his knuckles. Silver on his fins. The armor itself looks fantastic. The sculpt, the paint, very on point. I like the belt, and I complained how I always hate their sort of crotch or diaper type areas. This one looks better than most, but still has that sort of Amazing Yamaguchi look. But like I said, looks much better. Like that Deadpool or that Flash, that Superman just looks so bad in that area. This is one of the better ones here, that's for sure. See a ton of different sculpt, different textures on different parts, different shades of gray. Paint job's fantastic. The stance is a little bit weird. I prefer a more vanilla stance, but you can't put the legs in. You can only sort of rotate them this way. There's some of the issues I have with these guys. Articulation, it's like super articulated, but super clunky and super hard to use. It just doesn't do what you want it to do sometimes. As a whole, this looks good. Looks like a very nice Arkham Knight figure, and it looks like one of the better Amazing Yamaguchi offerings. So far, I'm fairly impressed. The cape has a sort of leathery feel in the back. Bendy wire, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 8 bendy wires. So this thing's going to do pretty much whatever you want it to do. One minor complaint, it's a little bit longer than him, so I had to take all the tips and just sort of bend them back to allow him to stand properly. Now it does sort of help support him if he leans back, which I had a hard time getting this guy to stand at first. The ankle articulation is a little weird. It has like numerous different ways to articulate them, so once I figured it out, he stood no problem. So far, I'm pretty pleased. And that's come from someone who started this with a negative attitude. Don't get me wrong, I have my share of complaints. It's mostly just the way certain things look, the proportions, the stance, the way it just sort of, you know, hangs there, the arms. I really wish I could win just a little bit further. It's like he's in the middle of walking up with 2 balled fists about to beat somebody up, which is fine, but I don't want him to look like that all the time. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt, it is quite a bit shiny, quite glossy, maybe a little bit too much. But the face itself looks good. It's not cartoony, it's not anime, it's not all happy-go-lucky, it looks serious, it looks like the Arkham Knight Batman from the game, and I appreciate that. Overall, he looks a little too big and bulky. It's like a Dark Knight Returns version of the Arkham Knight Batman. And then here's the figure, broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. He doesn't have an alternate head, but if you want to utilize the eye articulation, you have to take this head off. Now let's check out his accessories, starting off with the boring stuff, his display stand. His display stand comes in 3 separate pieces. When put together, it looks like this. You have a base here with a ton of different options where to put the peg. Then you have the peg here, with rotation at the bottom, hinge at the bottom, hinge in the middle, hinge near the top, rotation up here, and this clamp to hold your figure. Now let's talk about his eye articulation, which is a little bit unnecessary, but cool at the same time. So you have this tool here, a little sort of pick. Take your figure, the head, look in the back, you can see the sort of gooey looking eyes. Take this, rotate them side to side, and you can adjust his eyes. Here's an example of how it looks when you're moving the eye. So you can see his eye's totally white right now. You can kind of move it around a little bit. Make sure I got the little device in the right place here. Personally, not a huge fan of this feature. It's really easy to make them look bad, and it's kind of difficult to make them look good. So I mean, I'm sort of stuck with one eye looking normal, one way off to the side. It's definitely hard to do on camera because you kind of have to look at the back while you're moving the eye around. Over here, adjusting a little bit. Kind of got the pupil back in the middle. I have to mess with a little bit more. Little sort of gooey looking things. Just stick the little slot inside there, move them around. But like I said, when it's facing me, I'm trying to show it off. It's very hard to actually do it without seeing what I'm doing. Honestly, the eye thing is a lot of work for very little result. I don't really think it's that good of a feature. Sounds cool on paper, but in execution, not nearly as good as I'd think. It worked a lot better with the Amazing Yamaguchi Harley Quinn, as I recall. On this guy here, it's really hard to access the eyes. They're pretty deep into his head, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work as well as the last one like this. Now let's look at his hands. He has a total of 7 of them, 4 right hands and 3 left hands. Here he is with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. And here he is with his second pair of hands. This is a pair of gripping hands. And then his next pair of hands. This is a pair of open hands. And he has 1 additional right hand. This one has his line launcher. There's the line launcher. Now the hand originally was sticking in too far, kind of rotated that joint a little bit and got it to look a little better. It has this front part here that actually comes out, and you can replace it with some of the other accessories. You have this here, bam, it'll attach, and then you have this other piece here, which you can also attach at the same time, making an actual sort of functioning, looking good line launcher. Yeah, let's mess with it for a sec, see if I can get it going. Now, I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty freaking cool. If you ever played the game, this is exactly how the line launcher works. Pulls it up, the line goes forward and back, and then allows them to use it like a zip line. This is the first time I've ever seen anyone handle this way, and it's very well done. Now let's look at his batarangs. He has two of them. The top one, I believe, is a standard batarang. The bottom one, the remote batarang. Here's Batman holding and getting ready to throw his batarang, in the same pose with the remote batarang. And a closer look at the remote batarang. You can kind of see that sonar interface on the outside. Then we have his cryographic sequencer. You get two of them. One that's completely shut, and then one that is open and in use. It has a little hole here. You can attach this plastic thing to the hole in there, and then you can attach this little sort of decal as if it's sort of his holographic computer display floating above his wrist when he's using that. Very, very cool concept. Very unique way to handle this accessory. DC Direct made one of these that is actually articulated, and I have a couple of them. I think one broke, one didn't. This is probably a good way to handle this. Here's a closer look at these holographic computer interface displays. There are 5 different ones. On top, security, access panel, hack device, and then interface out of range, then elements, password accepted, then scanning for data connection, and then airship stability control. Very, very cool. Would have been nice maybe if we had something like this to go onto his forearm like he's talking to Alfred or Gordon. So here's Batman holding that hack device, and then here he is holding the open version, and then add that little transparent piece, plug it into the peg, add your little display, and it looks great. It's semi-transparent. Looks like he's actually reading that, sort of floating there. It looks great. What a cool, unique way to handle that accessory. And now I wanted to talk about his cape for a sec. So the cape is magnificent. It looks good from the outside, leathery, stretches out at least this far. Now the shoulder pads are kind of pushing it down, and you can kind of raise the arm up, and that'll raise the cape up. Of course, that arm not trying to sit up very easily. And you can stretch this thing out about that far. Some really cool gliding poses. You have this guy sort of floating through Gotham City, etc. I mean, look at that. That looks amazing, and that's without even really trying very hard. You can make it look really cool. You can also have him sort of just standing there, and I don't know, say the cape's floating in the wind, going on sort of both sides like so. A lot of cool things you can do with a cape like this. It feels really good, and the fact that it has 7+ bendy wires gives it a lot of options and makes it very stable. Very well done on this cape, guys. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at the figure and his accessories, let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing about 6.2 inches tall, which can translate to just under 16 centimeters. And if you go to the top of the ears, about 6.5 inches tall. And for his articulation, which is quite complicated and annoying at times, but also very satisfying at other times. So, I'll talk about a lot of things during this. So let's start off with his head. Of course, you can rotate side to side. He can look up and down about this much. Now he has articulation at the top of the neck and at the bottom of the neck. And the neck seems to sit a little too high, it's too fat, the proportions are weird. I don't know what this stuff is, I wish it would just stay down, but it doesn't. It's like floating up there. It just looks weird. I feel like that is how it should look, but that's not how it looks. You can move it around quite a bit. This just, I don't know, looks odd. Too fat, too thick. Shoulder pads, they don't move at all, but they're stuck with the arms and moves the entire cape. Gets you into a really nice gliding pose when you're up like this. They have these really hideous joints as far as I'm concerned. Little ball in there with a little peg, and it looks awful when they're exposed. Of course, the trick is, don't let them be exposed, but I really don't like the fact that you have to work so hard sometimes to give them the right pose without these big, ugly ball joints sort of being exposed. but it can hit a big range of motion. It can rotate up there, up and down. He's got a separate bicep cut here, but once again, it can look disconnected so easily. His elbows, see, everything's sort of off whack right now. Completely extended. They go in very nicely, way more than 90 degrees. His wrist can rotate. It's also hinged. Now, those armor pieces here, it's weird, like, they kind of go forward on top of here, just increase the range of motion. I mean, talk about a butterfly joint. Holy crap. Ball joint up here, rotate around, forward and back. Another one in the waist, rotate around, forward and back. Now, I complained about the way Amazing Yamaguchi crotches look, and his is no exact exception. This sort of articulation here and this part up here, it always looks bad, but his looks so much better than most of them. The legs, they go out about this far. The belt is articulated, but it's really just to get out of the way for things like this. But then, the belt doesn't look right, so if you're posing it that way, sure, it allows you to hit those poses, but then it makes it look kind of ludicrous. It can completely rotate here. Forward, about that far. Back, not much. Sort of double jointed knees, and they go all the way back. There's like a boot cut, but it barely moves at all. A little bit more rotation down there, but like I said, barely does anything. The ankles, so forward and back, sort of, but you can sort of move it forward, like it is articulation at the back of that ball joint there, and at the front. So at first I didn't get that, and I was having trouble standing up properly, but once I understood that, then you can totally move the foot in. Now as a whole, his legs are just like too stubby, too short. The proportions just seem off on this guy. They're too fat, too short, too stubby. Just my opinion. He does look good, but the proportions are definitely off, and just giant ball joints in his elbows here. They look really bad right now. Yeah, I can work hard to sort of like hide them. I don't like having to do all that. These look just fine right now, but now they don't. So there's a trade-off, aesthetics and articulation. Here's a look at this Arkham Knight Batman on a rooftop of Gotham, overlooking his city, and a closer look at this Amazing Yamaguchi Arkham Knight Batman. Now let's check him out next to some other action figures, starting off with some other Arkham Knight Batman figures. Here he is, next to the McFarlane DC Multiverse Arkham Knight Batman. You can see they're totally different scales, 6-inch and 7-inch, but I swear there's more than an inch difference between these two guys. And McFarlane made 3 different versions of the Arkham Knight Batman. Then, next to the DC Direct Arkham Knight Batman, which is also 7-inch scale, DC Direct also made 3 versions of the Arkham Knight Batman. This is the muddied up version, this is the regular clean version, and this one is slightly battle damaged. You can see it on his shins. And now, with the third-party Extreme Toys Arkham Knight Batman. Here are all 4 different companies that make the Arkham Knight Batman: McFarlane, Amazing Yamaguchi, Extreme Toys, and DC Direct. Now let's check them out, next to some other Amazing Yamaguchi figures. Here he is, next to the first Batman, which I really don't like. His cape is really extensive, but it's horribly articulated, really hard to get to look good and move properly. His joints are just hideous as well. They've made a lot of improvements since then. And here he is, next to the Amazing Yamaguchi Deathstroke. I believe there's like a version 1.5 coming out soon. Then, here's Batman next to the Amazing Yamaguchi Harley Quinn, all 3 versions. There was a regular one, a paint variant, and even an Ami exclusive. This is the first Amazing Yamaguchi figure that I thought actually looked pretty good. I was excited to get her after the misses with Batman and Deathstroke. This was a nice little course correction in my opinion. And now, next to the Amazing Yamaguchi Joker, which took a turn in the wrong direction. I think this thing is absolutely hideous. Look at the shoulders, look at the face, look at the legs and the sort of hips, crotch area. Very disappointing. Here's this Batman, next to Amazing Yamaguchi's Arkham Knight. I bought 2 of these guys. I wanted to have the Arkham Knight and the Red Hood figures on display at the same time. And even though it has some of the same problems with the shoulder joints being ugly, the crotch being a little bit ugly, this is the best Amazing Yamaguchi release to date. I'd say the Arkham Knight Batman is probably a little bit better, but I really like this Arkham Knight figure. Very, very well done. Nice improvement. Just fix those shoulders and elbows. And the most recent release before this Arkham Knight Batman is the Arkham Knight Catwoman, which is also a decent figure, but suffers from a lot of the flaws the other ones do. Although as a whole, I'd say big improvement with the Arkham Knight Catwoman, and Arkham Knight Batman. Here's Amazing Yamaguchi's entire Arkham Knight collection. It's really a total of 3 figures, but you can turn it into 4 different releases if you want to. Here are all of the Amazing Yamaguchi releases so far. We have 2 versions of Batman, 3 different variations of Harley Quinn, Catwoman, Deathstroke, the Arkham Knight, Joker, and an optional Red Hood look on the Arkham Knight. I have no idea what's coming next from those guys. Looking forward to see. Hopefully it's a little more pleasing to me personally. But they are on the right path with these Arkham Knight figures. Huge improvement on what came before. Now let's check them out. Next is some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in, both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's an Amazing Yamaguchi figure, they're typically the 6-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of these smaller action figure lines I collect, and work my way larger, and I'm going to include as many Batman figures as I can during these comparisons. Here he is with some Jazzwares Fortnite figures, and some SH Figure Arts action figures, and now with some Hasbro Marvel Legends and Mafex Batman figures. Here's this Batman next to a stapler, and here he is with some Mattel and Mezco Batman figures, then with both some Jazzwares and Mattel wrestling figures, next with some NECA and DC Direct Batman figures, and finally with some McFarlane and Diamond Select toys. So overall, this is a pretty cool Amazing Yamaguchi Arkham Knight Batman figure. I would say it's probably the best Amazing Yamaguchi figure that I own. As you can tell from a lot of my comments about this video, I'm a self-proclaimed Amazing Yamaguchi hater. I don't like the anime look. I don't like the cartoon stylized look. This Batman doesn't have most of those things. I really don't like the articulation and the way their bodies look, and this one looks better than all the ones that came before. Sometimes their shoulders are just hideous with ugly ball joints. Same with the elbows. A lot of time the crotch area looks just atrocious, but this Batman is better than most. Now here are the negative things. Yeah, some of the joints that stick out are very ugly. Some of the articulation is very clunky for a quote-unquote super articulated figure. Some of the articulation is not that good. And his proportions are just off. The legs are so thick, so stubby, so short. The sort of chest, the arms, it just all looks like he's puffed out and he's just looking really tough. It just doesn't look quite right. People say McFarlane has bad proportions. Well, I'd say they look very normal compared to the Amazing Yamaguchi figures. This guy's cape is absolutely amazing. The accessories are fantastic. We've had so many different Arkham figures over the years, and Amazing Yamaguchi actually did something unique with 2 of the accessories. The line launcher and his cryographic sequencer. So some really cool stuff going on, and the figure looks fantastic. I love his armor. I love the head sculpt. I love the cape. It all looks good, just the proportions are off, and the joints can be kind of ugly and difficult to use. If I were to rate this guy, I think I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. And in some ways I want to give him a lower rating. Other ways I want to give him a higher rating, so I'll land at a 7, which is the highest I've rated an Amazing Yamaguchi figure to date, I believe. I do think the Arkham Knight also looks pretty good. Catwoman suffers from some serious issues, but God, that first Batman Deathstroke and that Joker are just hideous, and I feel the same way about like the Deadpool, the Wolverine that I see, Flash, Superman. They all look just so bad. A lot of them have those really anime stylized faces, and it just doesn't work for me with the DC characters, and really most of the Marvel characters they make also. So I went into this with a negative attitude and still give this guy a pretty high rating, at least a fair rating. If that tells you anything about the figure, that speaks volumes for its quality. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say to the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.